Okay, I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Everman City Council to order. It is 6:01, and it is Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Everybody please rise for a moment of silence for I pledge of allegiance. First item on the agenda is consent agenda. Item A, minutes from the May 13th, 2025 Everman City Council regular meeting and May 27th, 2025 Everman City Council meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 13th and May 27th as read.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would you poll the council?
Place 1. Place 2.
Aye.
Place 3. Aye. Place 4.
Aye.
Place 5.
Aye.
Place 6. Aye. Mayor,
Aye.
motion carried.
Next item is financials for April 2025 and May of 2025. We'll entertain a motion to accept.
I move we accept the financials of April and May 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to know if they get the financials on time.
I think I'd like some guidance on when the strict cutoff is, because these are financial reports. And so we can only do so much, particularly when we're dealing with audit and things, that we don't want to unjustly put out inaccurate numbers. It's a report. There's nothing that can change on the numbers when you receive these. So it's just a report that we're required to file with you that you have to accept and receive. I'm happy to always answer any questions. I understand that you'd like an opportunity to review it before council meetings, but there are times where it's just hard with the limited staff we've got to try to get this to you in an accurate format without creating a mistake. These are records that permanently go on the file when we file it with you and you accept it, and we want to make sure that everything's accurate. We don't have any policy that dictates when it's supposed to be out. I don't know if we need to work that into a policy somehow, but there are just times when it's very difficult, particularly during audit, to get to you. We explained last month the reason why you're getting April this month was because of a family emergency that Susan had to attend to. She just wasn't available. We've had to correct some audit deficiencies and work on some things with the auditors over the last couple of weeks. That's taken the priority to the normal monthly financial report, which is why you're getting it today. That on top of budget. So it's hard without having additional CPAs and stuff in the office who can help work on this to get it to you sometimes.
So is there any way that we can just postpone it and pass it next month? I mean, like give us a chance to look at it?
That's completely your discretion at any point in time. I think the question that I would ask is, I don't know what would change. I mean, the numbers are the numbers.
Right.
It is a report. We make sure to make ourselves highly available to anybody who ever has a question about financials. I've had Ms. Mackey come in my office before asking me about what are these numbers. So I have no problem with that whatsoever. We're very transparent with the numbers.
So even after today, if we go home and look at it and we have questions, we're more than welcome to come in and ask.
Always.
The only thing you're doing at this meeting is you are just accepting the report. Right. There's no action to take to do anything different with it. Can't make an action to change a factual report. It's all you're doing is accepting a report for the record.
Okay.
Would it be easier if, when you do a month, you're allowed 2 months before you present it to council, like May, give it to us in July?
Well, I think let's save that for a conversation later on in the agenda, because we're going to talk about policy changes, and we're going to talk about a policy change that changes when we have to post our meetings, and that may play into this as well, because I don't think there's going to be any way that Susan can have this done within a week following month end.
Absolutely not.
I just don't think I think it's going to be impossible to have it done within a week of month end.
So we're not go ahead.
I was just going to state that, like he's mentioned before, and I put out every time I email the financials, please, if you have any questions, I'm always available. You can email me, call me, stop by the office. I'm happy to go over any of it, but at the same time, it's a period, like nothing is going to change. It is black and white. It is exactly what happened, and I'm reporting it to y'all. Now, if we find that something was coded incorrectly or something like that, we can always make an adjustment, but it is a period in time, and that's what's reflected in the reports.
So I think where our collective brains are coming from is it shows up as just let me say it, it shows up as a done deal, and we're supposed to look at it and figure it out, et cetera, before the council meeting. And we don't have time for that. But I think, excuse me, I saw it. I think our thinking is off some, because you're not sending this out to us to read it and give it back and at the council meeting. You're just sending us the financial report.
It's not approval, it's accepting.
Right. I think
That's the difference.
After, Victoria, I think you're the one that said, we just accept it, we're not approving it. I think that's when I kind of started changing my thinking about it. But until you just were talking about it, it's okay to get it as soon as you give it to us. If we have questions, all of us call Susan and ask questions about it. This is not the place to ask questions about it. We're just accepting it, we're not chewing on it. Okay, did I say that right?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So
And I'm
from-
happy to go into
Oh,
depth
absolutely.
in any way, shape, or form on any purchase or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and
just
I've
to-
come in
just
and
for-
asked questions
to clarify.
before. Yeah, and you've been very open about it.
Yeah.
It's numbers.
Yeah.
It's black and white, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
We have an audit. If there's an audit going on,
We
I
have
can
one every year.
understand it's taken a lot of your time. And it would be nice to have just something say, the financials will be next time or something, because the audit, still working on something, That way we know that things are going on.
you mean like an email from her? Instead of,
Yeah, whatever.
instead of emailing out the financial report, email us and say.
If she doesn't
I
have
don't
time to get to it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
instead of sending us, when you're gonna be late with it, send us an email that says, I'm gonna be late. It'll be next week, or something like that.
Next month.
I want to make sure we bring us back on track. I think, Mayor, probably what's better is we do have a item on here on the agenda tonight to discuss potential policy changes. I think this would absolutely fit in that category, and we can discuss exact dates and timelines on exactly what you want the
I'm just
policy
getting-
to say.
That's it, that's cool. I'm just
Okay.
getting clarification on what's expected. Because I was thinking that here at the end, we are not doing this right. You're submitting what you've got, which is just a financial report. Okay, because we used to do it differently. But that doesn't mean how we did it was correct, is what I'm saying. Because we approved and did
Used to
other
get a
stuff.
paragraph. There's a difference in the actual
Yep.
financial reports too. If you
Yes.
compare what you used to receive a paragraph,
Yeah.
and now you're getting a 10-page
No, I mean
document.
way before. We got reports, but we got it in time to look at it. But it was a
Yeah, I think what
different time of
Susan's saying
report.
is that the report that you previously received was very basic information. This report drills way down
Yeah.
into all of the minute details so that you can see percentages, expenditures. I mean, it's a very, very detailed report that is not something that Susan can simply walk in, generate a report in the software and click print. I mean, she has to physically sit down, she has to reconcile the accounts before she can even put this together. That takes days, and the expectation is that we give her 12 working days to get it done and before council. And that's a lot of times with all the other demands on her time, just not feasible.
Gotcha.
It's a struggle.
So we won't question it at our city council meetings. We'll call y'all. I just had to throw that in.
I think probably clarification for all of us on council is that we're thinking that these financials is letting us know what has been spent within the city during this period of time. Like they were saying, the expenses have already been taken place. So it's not like we're approving what they've already purchased because they've already purchased. We're just looking over it to make sure that the purchase was needed and it was what needed to take place.
And we don't have to do
So-
that before the council meeting.
We don't have to, yes, exactly. So I don't have a problem with receiving them at this time because we're just looking over something that already took place. And that's why whenever we have questions, then we discuss, okay, I don't approve of this purchase that you made for $10,000. Why did it not come to council for
But we
us?
don't do that at council meeting.
We don't do that at
call
council
them.
meeting. Exactly. So I think I understand Susan and Craig, and it's just clarification that this is just to let us know what expenses have been taking place during this period of time and present it to us in a report so that we see what has been purchased. And then if we need to discuss it or anything, then we do it later, and then we can put it on an agenda to discuss it in council in front of our community members and our council members.
Okay.
Like it.
So, any other discussion? Did you poll the council?
Place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
place 3, place 4,
Aye.
place 5,
Aye.
place 6,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
motion carried.
Next item, presentations, have proclamation in recognition of Independence Day, July 4th, 2025. Whereas on July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence marking the birth of the United States of America and the beginning of a bold experiment in democracy and self-governance. And whereas for 249 years, Americans have honored this day as a time to reflect on our shared history, to celebrate our freedoms, and to pay tribute to the vision, courage, and sacrifice of our nation's founders and all those who have defended our liberty since. And whereas the City of Everman recognizes the 4th of July as an opportunity for our community to come together in a spirit of unity, pride, and gratitude, celebrating not only our nation's independence, but the enduring values of freedom, justice, and equality for all. And whereas Everman proudly honors the service of our military members, veterans, first responders, and public servants who protect and preserve their freedoms every day. And whereas it is fitting and proper for all citizens of Everman, Texas, join in the celebration of this great American holiday with parades, ceremonies, gatherings, and fireworks in a safe and respectful manner. Now therefore it be proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Everman that we proclaim July 4th, 2025 as Independence Day in the City of Everman, whereas all citizens who participate in patriotic activities reflect on the blessings of freedom and recommit ourselves to the democratic ideals that define us as Americans. Next item, citizens' comments.
We have none.
What's that?
We have none.
Okay, we have none. Discussion items. Item A is presentation of 2024 annual audit report. The city manager is withdrawing this to a later date.
Next meeting.
Next meeting. So item B is staff reports and updates. Item A is police department.
Thank you, Tom. This month we have a little bit of a reduction in most all of the substantial categories that we report on. Our officers responded to 1,666 calls for service. Those were including 8 traffic collisions, which was a reduction from 9 from last month. That's a definite improvement. We had 15 alarms. That one went up a little bit. We added 4 from last month. We had 4 assault calls. That one dropped by 7. It's a definite improvement. We had the same assistant other agency calls. This time we were helping Tarrant County SO, we were helping Fort Worth PD, and one we were helping the Tarrant County Medical Examiner. We had one burglary in progress as opposed to two last month, or 3 last month. Did arrive and make an arrest on that one. Somebody found a detached laundry room that was open, and they decided it was a good room for them to stay in. Didn't work out well. We had 48 disturbance calls. That's dropped by 12 from last month, so a little bit of an improvement there. Did have 2 deceased persons calls, 2 calls involving the mentally ill, which was a drop by 8 from last month. We had 4 shots fired calls. We do expect that to go up next month because we're coming up on a fireworks holiday. So we're going to be getting gunshots and fireworks calls that are going to be mixed in. 3 stolen vehicles, but 2 of them, similar to last month, turned out to be civil disputes, not actual vehicle thefts. People reported 21 different suspicious people or vehicles. That was up by 1. Had a few thefts that dropped a little bit, a couple of threats, a little bit less than last month. Arrests were down from last month. We had 4 this month. Traffic enforcement activities yielded 34 citations and 24 warnings, also down from last month. Currently we have 1 recruit in the basic police academy. Mr. Daquan Ryans, we brought him on board, very promising young man. Getting great word back from the academy instructors so far. He's doing very well. They have high hopes. They said we picked a good one. So he'll be in the academy for about 12 more weeks. Then he will be coming out here and getting introduced to all you folks. And then he'll go into field training and be there for what will seem like to him forever. Since we brought him on board, we've also conducted another interview board, and we hit a really good time this time. We were able to come up with several good, viable candidates for employment, which is getting harder and harder to find nowadays. But the interview board passed several of them, and we're in the process of doing the background investigation and getting them on board. One of them should be on board very quickly. So hopefully within the next few weeks, we will be back up to full staff. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks. Next presentation is code compliance and animal services.
All right, now, good afternoon. I got 1 newsletter created for the new website, 2 open records requests processed, 2 liquor permit checks conducted, 29 violations cases closed, 63 violation letters sent out, including 41 high vegetation, 15 low-hanging tree limbs over street, 6 junk rubbish complaints, 2 vehicles parked in front yards, 1 RV parked on the street with water and electric hooked up to it. Got my vehicle inspected, took insurance photos for the hail damage, and then I weeded a sign around a business for a lady because the owner of the property wouldn't do it. So that's about it.
I do want to highlight, he's only on week 3 of the job, and he has done a lot already. I think we'll work on the public speaking a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm not very good at that.
But no, Ryan's done an amazing job only being in the position in 3 weeks, working really well, really hard. He's definitely got a lot of drive to try to do a good cleanup of the city and address a lot of the citizen complaints we received about code compliance and stuff. I don't know if you caught exactly what he said at the end there, but he weed eated himself. He went out with a weed eater himself and weed eated around a business sign because there were some issues between a property owner and the owner of the grass that was blocking the sign. The property owner didn't have the ability to go out there and weed eat. So he just went out there on his own time and took care of it for him to help him out. So I think that says a lot about his character, his willingness to step up and not only do a good job, but actually invest in the community that he works in. So that's awesome. Good job, man.
Any
Thank
questions?
you.
I have a question.
All right.
On the low-hanging tree limbs over the street.
Yeah,
Do residents know that they're supposed to cut them to?
yeah,
a
I put it
certain
in the
distance?
newsletter on the website. Well, I sent in my newsletter, so it should be on the website.
Yeah, we've done some public education campaigns. If you recall, back when we bought the ladder truck, I'll call it a ladder truck for you, Chief. Back when we bought the ladder truck, we hit pretty hard and heavy on residents to trim these back because we didn't want those to damage the truck and provide adequate clearance for the fire truck. So I know that we did a pretty heavy pub ed campaign on that to trim the trees back over the roadway. I think is it 15 feet?
15
Yeah,
feet.
15 feet clearance over the roadway. And then, of course, if he spots it, the first thing that takes place is not a ticket. The first thing that takes place is he gives them a notice, a courtesy notice to try to resolve the violation before it goes any further.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Anything else?
Good job, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next item is fire department. Oh, wait, forgot.
Animal
Come on up.
control, no.
No escaping,
I
no.
forgot, that's a two-parter.
We didn't get a paper. He does a,
Mayor and Council. Animal control, we did, and for the month of May, we did 105 service calls. Investigated, we have one bite. We took in 63 dogs, which was an increase of 19% from the year previous. We took in 41 cats, which was a 41% increase from last year. Our live release rate, though, we kept it at 86%. Our adoptions for adopting out animals, transfers, returns to owners, we had 67 animals go out. We received 1,703 phone calls. Yeah, we get a lot of phone calls, a lot from other jurisdictions, and we can be proud of the fact that we do answer the phone because they complain that nobody else will answer the phone, so that's why they call us.
yes.
So we answer the phone. And our offsite events, we did 4 of them. You can see our mobile adoption unit back there that y'all did for us. And this will last in May. 18 animals were adopted out because of that mobile adoption unit and because of that program. And one of the goals that we had is we had a lot of our animals that are being transferred out more than we were doing adoptions. In May, it was 30 and 30. We had 30 transfer outs and we had 30 adoptions. So it's really doing the job, and we appreciate it.
And they did all this with you out.
They did better when I'm not there. No, yeah, it's kind of.
If y'all don't know, Ray's been out on medical, so he actually just got back yesterday, and he was excited to come back. So
New hip and all.
we're glad to have you back. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
Excellent report.
Okay, now it's fire department.
Yay. Mayor, council, real quick side note, I see item E is the festival. I do have notes down here. Do you want me to touch on the Celebrate America Festival notes that I've got, or circle back to?
That's up to you, Mayor. He's asking if you want him to cover both the fire department and the Celebrate America Festival at the same time. They're two different.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, we can do that. Easy peasy. All right, so here's my my report from May 27th to present. We've actually been a little bit slower on our calls for service. We're at 105. The average response time for all calls, including county jurisdiction, is 4 minutes and 50 seconds. The dispatch to en route is 1 minute and 17 seconds. As we discussed before, the gold standard is 60 seconds for a medical call and 80 seconds for a fire response. That has been a high priority. I've been working with the shift lieutenants. As y'all know, I've got 3 new lieutenants that we've been mentoring and trying to get everybody on the same page, and so that way we're all working towards one goal and one common mission. And one of those, obviously, is getting out of the house as fast as we possibly can. Currently, I think that there's a little bit of skew in the numbers, just merely for the fact of we've got the new fancy radios that take a minute for them to turn on, so they're likely already en route before it takes about 45 seconds for our portable radios to actually, once we turn them on, to the screen come up and ensure that it's on the right channel. So kind of determined that it might be a little bit of the skewed numbers on the extended response times, but we're working through that, and so we've been redoing how we respond and who says what on the radio. So that's been a big help for us. Total in-city overlapping emergency incidents for this time period is a total of 16 times with 15% of all calls. I know the city manager requested that I showed the trends on that one. I did run into a little bit of a data anomaly, and I did not want to put anything that was incorrect into the chart, and so I'm working through that. So the next report, I will come back with those. Hopefully I can weed through whatever the data anomaly. It's more of a input issue that I'm running into, but I'm thinking I can work through it and I can get firm numbers for it. So I do want to be able to show you that trend. From the 30,000 foot view, it does look like that it's obvious a slow gradual increase over the time period, but I don't want to get anything false out there. I did, just as I was going through the data, one of the newer reports, because we're transferring over to a NIMSIS, is the INFRS is the old style of National Fire Incident Reporting System. NIMSIS is the new standard that they're rolling out with, and so they've got a lot of different data points and reports that they can come up with. One of them is the call volume per time, which customarily, unlike in PD software, we can usually break it down by hour. Fire department software, we usually don't. It doesn't break it down to that degree. So this is one of the new charts. I want to put that in there. Obviously, you can see the bulk of our call volume is, generally speaking, during the daytime hours. We're primarily a veteran community, so when people are asleep, bad things don't happen, typically, knock on wood. So, but obviously, you can see right there about 1, 2 o'clock is when we hit our peak time for our average call responses. So the incidents by response type, like I said, we're a little bit slower during this time period. A total of 3 fire-related incidents, 71 medical emergencies, 8 MVAs, 7 hazardous conditions, and 1 entrapment rescue. There was which could have been, very well could have been a severe, just by the grace of God, the way that the child was trapped in a piece of equipment. Thankfully, didn't occlude the airway or anything, so we had to dismantle some equipment with some extrication tools and to get the kiddo out. So it all worked out great. The crew, everybody was on top of it, but could have been very, very bad. And then we had 15 of the other miscellaneous calls. For staffing, we've got the 1 new firefighter paramedic that is in FTO right now. He's assigned to B shift during his FTO period. Joel Lopez is our designated field training officer for all new paramedics, who does an excellent job at it. He's got years and years of experience. So we moved firefighter McCord over to B shift during that time period. He'll move back to A once he's completed his FTO. And we do still currently have the 1 firefighter paramedic position open. City manager and I have been discussing that, how we're proceeding with that one. As for Celebrate America Festival, I've kind of shortened it because less syllables is better for me, especially on stage. So if you've caught, I use Celebrate America Fest. It's still a festival, but for the name, it's just easier with one less syllable. We have had well over 80 vendors sign up, which is legitimately double than any year. It's been overwhelming. We have weeded through. I was trying to ensure that we were selective on the vendors that we allowed, because I didn't want to. It was first come, first served, but if there was 3 people that were a barbecue vendor, that's not good for them. So I weeded it down to 1, maybe 2. Same thing for somebody who was selling jewelry. If I'm not gonna let 5 people, just because nobody's gonna benefit from that. So we're down to, as of today, 75. I don't know how I'm going to make it work, but we're gonna make it work. I can tell you that every square inch of in here and out there will be covered up. And we're expecting a substantial crowd this year. We have done our due diligence and looking into every other city's festivals. Typically, we've always historically done it on the Saturday preceding 4th of July. Typically, we have at least 2, if not 3 or 4 other local Tarrant County festivals that we're competing with, and the crowds obviously only go to 1, maybe 2. This time, as far as we can tell, there is 1 in Sanger and 1 in Red Oak. There's nothing local. Everybody is either the next Friday or next Saturday. And the response that I've received from all of our vendors, especially the food trucks, because their job is to promote their business, they will go anywhere and everywhere, is we have no competition and everybody's talking about Everman. So we are preparing for whopper crowd. So if I look in a panic, I'm not, I promise. It's just my face.
Hey, Grandview does have one the same night.
It's different county. We're good. It's different.
Well, Sanger's in a different county.
We do, one of the cool things that I was looking at today is we have 24 different food vendors, and legitimately from every different type of food, dessert, ice cream, funnel cake, churros, mini pancakes, mini waffles, you name cake pops, and then every food, Cajun food. We have a roll with it, I believe that's the name. It's egg rolls. Like he specializes in egg rolls. I mean, there's a two or three that are like fine dining cuisine that I'd put theirs in a food truck, and they're going to come out here, and I've looked at all their menus before I approved them. They all have moderate pricing, and they're all acceptable pricing, and I'm hungry just thinking about it. I'm jonesing for the food trucks. This year, I'm going to find time to step away and actually eat some real good food instead of a funnel cake at 1 a.m. So. And then I think probably one of the biggest things that I'm going to ensure that I get out there as a social media blitz is one of the biggest things that we're doing this year that nobody, what we're being told, I can't confirm, but what I'm being told is no other city is really doing it, is we did lean down on a few of the, I did it, instead of doing a bunch of bounce houses, I only did wet slides. And so we did 2 giant ones, so we're not lacking there, but we didn't do any bounce houses. So we trim a little bit of funds there, and I reallocated them to a very large, very nice tent with standing room for many, 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 many people. It's a 40 by 80, so it's going to basically take up the entire back side of the field. And so I'm calling it the Big Top Pavilion. That's going to be also the bar. So we will have Happy Armadillo. We're setting up actually with a 16-foot bar that's going to be underneath there. And here's the biggest perk. We have rented a bunch of the 36 and 48-inch misting fans and evaporative coolers. So we will have 8 or 10 giant cooling fans and misters all underneath the tent or up on the stage or behind the bar to help with those people because they're going to be working their tails off. So we're going to have a cool place for everybody to walk through, relax, get out of the sun, get a breath, get a beer, get a daiquiri, get one of those things, because I can tell you that Molson Coors has really stepped it up this year with assisting with their donations. So we're in talks. Hopefully, we're set a good trend. So let's see where we go next year. But this year, they didn't want us to have to worry about any of our needs for the bar or beer sales. So Happy Armadillo is going to be set up real good. So we're looking forward to it. If anybody has any suggestions or thoughts or concerns, feel free to send me an email because, as I've told everybody, I probably haven't thought of it, and help me out here. Throw me a hint because we're going bigger and better this year. So hopefully we knock it out of the park. I can tell you that the last thing on Celebrate America is safety is legitimately has been the #1 talk and discussion that city manager and I have had, Chief Brooks and I have had. We're looking at every possible additional resource that we can bring in, whether it's police or fire, to assist with being vigilant, being seen, and ensuring that we've got eyes everywhere. I've got the city employees have also stepped up. We discussed it in directors meeting the other day that if you got a uniform shirt, please, I'd like to see you out there. Be vigilant. Everybody's going to see you with the City of Everman shirt. They're going to know that you're somebody affiliated with the city, and you're an extra set of eyes to walk around to ensure that if we see something, you find somebody with a badge, you make sure that that's told. So obviously with the state of current affairs in the United States, you never know. And so it's always going to be on the forefront of our brains because we want to make sure that we ensure we provide a safe, family-friendly event for everybody. So hopefully it goes off without hitch. Knock on wood.
Thank you.
Yep. Any questions or comments? Next item is Public Works.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you all. It's just, we wanted to review what we've done for this past month. On streets and parks, as we see there, we have 12 potholes that we're able to fill in. We also were able to maintain our storm drain system. So that means maintain the drainage and make sure there's no blockages. Routine park and equipment and building maintenance. We also did 13 setups for events here at the Civic Center. We inspected did 8 inspections. We also installed 9 Celebrate America banners around the city, as you see them around town. We had 5 new work orders for potholes. And as you see here in these pictures, the guys have been able to replace a couple of really rusted water lines for the animal shelter, and we're able to fix that water leak that was going on there in that place. Also in the pictures you see there's a tree down there on the street, so we were able to get out there and move it out of the street and cut it down and make sure everybody was safe and nobody had an accident there. So that was also taken care of. That's on Parks and Streets. On the water side, we've had sewer backups. So we had 6 of those this month, 2 main breaks, 1 service line that was fixed, 3 curb stops, 2 meter changeouts, and we also installed a brand new door at the Shelby well lot. It was really rusted, so as you can see there in the picture, it's a brand new metal door. According to the state, we needed to be replaced, so we were able to do that. And we had a total of 33 work orders. This is a low number because we just read the water meters, so we don't have the complete number of work orders for turn-ons and turn-offs. So that's why we couldn't give you that other number. But for the past couple of days, it's been 33 work orders in total.
Very nice, thank you.
Okay, next item is Town Hall meet and greet. Let's talk budget.
Yeah, just wanted to remind council that we do have our town hall meet and greet. It is Thursday, this Thursday, at 6 p.m. here in the Civic Center. We will have all of our departments here present for a public engagement opportunity as we work to get our final budget preparations complete before our first budget hearing with you guys coming up. So I want to encourage you to come and participate. We want to encourage the public to come and participate, hear about the many different projects that we have going on that are planned, and provide your input on what you want to see. That's it.
Any questions or comments? Next item is fiscal year 2026 budget calendar.
Just wanted to put it on here just as one last reminder. I did include that in your packets. We passed it around this evening for you. So you should have it. We had to make a couple of changes after consulting with Victoria, but I think we're good and squared away now. So no major changes. Our first budget hearing will be coming up here in about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. Any questions or concerns on the calendar? Okay.
Mindy, can you send out calendar invites to council on all these dates?
There should already be. I think we already did. Yeah, I think we already did that. Yeah.
All right. Okay, next item, item H, Tarrant County Emergency Services District Number 1 Strategic Study Summary Report.
All right. So I know this is going to be completely new information for all of you. The mayor has asked me to give a brief, and this will be not brief, but I want it requires some lengthy explanation for you to understand the current impact and what we're having to deal with as far as the fire department goes and our fire department delivery service. A little bit of a background, what Tarrant County ESD is, it is the funding mechanism for the Everman Fire Department and other fire departments to provide fire and EMS response in the unincorporated areas of Tarrant County. The Tarrant County ESD funding from 2 sources as of today, 2 sources. One being property tax that is assessed on properties located within the unincorporated areas, and 2, a sales and use tax of any funds that come in through the unincorporated areas. Let me go back a little bit further to 2017. I think many of you were on council at the time, and so you'll recall in 2017, the city manager at the time proposed eliminating Everman EMS and contracting with MedStar, and this was due to some financial constraints. There were some budgeting concerns at the time MedStar did not charge for EMS services. They felt this may be a good alternative to go that way. Obviously, there was significant citizen pushback on that. One of the concerns was being the capability and response times that we were likely to receive from MedStar would be nowhere near to what we were able to achieve. Two, it's just better to have the control and things that that council wanted. If you recall, I had just been sworn in as chief like a week and a half before this bomb got dropped, and I had to go and take on a battle to try to come up with a game plan to figure this out. Our game plan at that time and what we had proposed was eliminating the two different departments, the Everman EMS and the Everman Fire Department, being two separate things, and consolidating, save some dollars so that we could function both, the fire and EMS, as one, and utilize staff across both boards. Because when we were divided, the EMS staff did not do anything related to the fire job, and the firefighters did not do anything related to the EMS job. It was completely separated, and that just was not a good use of fiscal dollars. So council approved to move forward with that consolidation, and we did that in 2018 as a part of that budget process. When we were doing this, one of the asks that came out from us was to the county, to the fire marshal specifically, who served as the executive director. The ESD came and said, hey, we don't want you to lose your ambulance. We need your ambulance to be able to service the county. What can the ESD do? And the ask was, well, we need more money. We need funding, because the whole reason this is coming up is because it's a funding issue. We need funding. The ESD said that they didn't have any additional funding available. At the time, the only revenue source for the ESD was property tax. Fast forward to 2021, Mayor Richardson, myself, I can't remember who else may have been there. I think, oh, no, I don't think so. I can't remember who else was there. But we had a meeting with Tarrant County Commissioner Roy C. Brooks. I don't know, Chief Whiteley, if you were there at the time or not. A meeting with Tarrant County Commissioner Roy C. Brooks, and we pushed for him to please consider adopting a sales and use tax within Tarrant County for Tarrant County ESD number 1 to help increase the funding for firefighters, because this was not just an issue that Everman was facing. This was an issue that contract were facing. Is my mic just cutting out? What's the... We'll see if this is any better. So we asked the commissioner to consider adopting a sales and use tax. Commissioner Brooks had been outspoken against it previously. We explained in detail what the issues were that we were being faced with, showed him the numbers, and he actually came around and agreed to support that. It took a little bit of time for that to come to fruition, but if you recall, in 2023, it was finally approved to go before the voters for consideration to implement a sales and use tax within Tarrant County. It was advertised at the time to help fund additional firefighters, help improve salaries, increase capabilities, all of this. All of the individual fire department associations, city councils, everybody got behind it to support it because it was drastically needed. One of the reasons why it's drastically needed is because municipalities are currently having to use city tax dollars to subsidize county response. What do I mean by that? Well, every time our ambulance goes into the county, the city is actually having to pay for a chunk of that. We're having to use local tax dollars to take care of the county. It shouldn't be that way. The county should be responsible for its portion of response. The city should be responsible for its portion of response. How do we know this? Well, we went back and we did a lot of the math to figure this out. So I've put the math together. I'll share this slide with you, but what does that dollar amount look like? Well, currently, the way that we are funded from the ESD is through two different contract setups. We have a fire contract and we have an EMS contract with the county. The fire contract pays us a flat rate per year. It doesn't matter the number of responses. We can run 5,000 fire calls in the county. We can run 5 in the county. We are paid the same across the board annually. The current contract price, the ESD did up at this last year. I think the current contract is around $140,000 for the year. The EMS payout is done on a point system with a cap. That point system pays us on average about $590 per call is what we make when we run into the county. Well, what we first have to do is we have to figure out what is it cost us to operate a fire department on a per-call basis. This is a typical way for departments to do funding analysis. It's typically done on studies, and it's exactly what Tarrant County actually just did through a strategic study as well. What we found is that pretty much the average for most municipalities is they spend between $1,200 and $1,300 per call. We get that by taking our complete operational budget, meaning we're not talking about debt, we're not talking about paying down a fire truck, we're not talking about the cost of the fire station. We're talking about how much do we have to spend a year to pay for firefighters and the medical supplies and the equipment that's needed to operate on a day-to-day basis. No capital overhead whatsoever, no debt is included in that. That cost us about $1,300 per call. That's the average. Unfortunately for us, we're only spending about $1,000 per call. We're well below the average. We're well below the average for two reasons. A, we do not even have the NFPA minimum staffing in our fire department that's required. And B, our salaries are significantly lower than the market average. So those two reasons are the factors on why we spend less on a per call basis. The average is $1,300 per call. We went back and referenced several other studies that found the exact same dollar amounts that we were. City of Marble Falls was one of those. Springfield, Missouri was another one. Larger cities like Fort Worth obviously have, because of economy of scale, obviously have a larger dollar amount per call, but that includes their additional staff, support staff, fire marshals, those kinds of things also factor into that. But roughly $1,300 per call is what we found to be about the market average to spend on a fire department operation. The Tarrant County ESD recently implemented a strategic study that revealed almost identical numbers to what we have found in our studies and in our research. They found it to be about $1,300 per call. So in fiscal year 24, we went back and did an analysis, and based off the EMS call volume that we had running these calls, for the fiscal year 24, we received from the county about $590 per call. Now, the argument's always been, well, yeah, but you guys get to bill for those calls as well. So you're getting additional funding on top of the $590 to offset that. That's been the argument. That's true, we do, but we have a different payer mix than what the majority of the rest of the county does. As you all know, all of Everman is a qualified census tract. We have a large proportion of underserved community. We have a higher volume of self-pay or uninsured individuals that we have to tend to. So we're not going to collect through insurance the same amount that maybe a more affluent community would, that has a higher insurance rate above and beyond. Also, our population average, our median age within the county area that we respond to is in the 30s. Well, when you look at insurance, 30s doesn't typically, they're not going to qualify for Medicare or Medicaid out of pocket unless they have some other qualifying event. So we have a very high volume of self-pays that we have to serve. We also have a higher crime rate within our county response area, higher drug use rate within our county response area. So all that factors into the fact that we're really not collecting a lot from billing like maybe some other more affluent communities would. So what we did is we took that billing for fiscal year 24, we went back and did some math. In fiscal year 24, for all EMS calls, including city and county, we spent about 1.3, 1.4 million in an operational budget for that year. We only collected about 213,000 of that back through insurance billing. That was about 10 to 15% of our budget. The ESD in their models, they anticipate to get about 17% back through that. So I use their numbers just to err on the side of caution. Even if we were to recover 17% of our operational fire cost through billing, that would only bring up what we receive back from the county to cover their calls, $811.18. So what does that mean? Essentially that every time our ambulance responds to the county, the city is writing a check in the amount of about $488.82 every time. That is a big subsidy. This is something that we have been arguing quietly kind of behind the scenes for a long time, trying to get it to balance out. We understand that there's a lot of history. Everman has served the county since it was founded. There's always been great partnerships, things along the lines. We've been begging the county to step up because it just simply cannot continue that the municipalities bear the burden of having to respond to the counties, particularly in today's environment when we've had legislative changes that do not require these subdivisions to be annexed in. There's no longer a need for them to be annexed in, and we have a large volume of growth within the county. So we've got neighborhoods that are popping up left and right that we're having to respond to, and unfortunately our citizens here are having to bear the financial burden of that. I know that there's been a big push from this council to lower our tax rate. I've shared that with the board, that it's hard to do that when we're essentially losing about $220,000 a year to go to the county. If there was no history between us and the county and this agreement came to us today, staff recommendation would be no way are we going to pay $220,000 to go cover this. So I know it's been through attrition that we've gotten to this point, but the ESD has the funding to resolve it, and we're a little frustrated that they haven't taken the initiative to resolve it yet. So with the new sales and use tax that was implemented, one of the first things that the ESD elected to do was to hire a consulting firm to do a strategic study. That's a smart move, and we absolutely support getting a firm to come in and do a strategic study on identifying this. The strategic study was just published a couple weeks ago, made available in draft, we thought it was going to be draft form. I'm not sure if it's draft or final. It seems like it's final form, although there hasn't been stakeholder input back yet. But in that report that I've provided to each of you, you have the opportunity to review all of this when you're bored out of your mind and want something fun to read. But if you look on page 2 of that report, the Tarrant County ESD number 1 strategic study key priorities are listed as this: adopt a reserve fund policy for 25% of revenue, address challenges within ISO and insurance coverage for citizens. They're talking about building 3 new stations in the following priority order: Eagle Mountain, Whiskey Flats, and Lakeside. Staff a 3-person engine at Eagle Mountain and Whiskey Flats 24/7. Staff select tankers with firefighter EMTs 24/7. Fund 100% of the EMS program with a total of 9 ambulances. Those 9 ambulances do not include Everman, just so you know. They would also assume the billing responsibility with an estimated recovery of $1 million, improve turnout time and total response time, and then utilize performance-based contracts for greater operational and fiscal accountability and transparency. One of the first key things that we picked up on when this study was published is that nowhere within the priority listing does it mention anything about stopping the subsidy of municipal tax dollars to county operation. And that is what we have been trying to shout from the mountaintops to them, is to stop the subsidy. We need additional funding to stop the subsidy. That doesn't seem to be a priority based on the key priorities that are listed here. Their key priority is to essentially lower insurance rates for certain populations within the county. That is what you see within the strategic priorities. What's interesting about the study is that they did a SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness. If you flip over to the next page, you'll see this highlighted on here. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which is typical of any sort of study when we do this. And one of the threats that they identified in this study was that funding concerns lead agencies to consider no longer providing services to ESD1. So we know that it's on the radar, but none of their priorities tend to line up to correct that. And we're getting, when we've spoke at meetings before with the ESD, or when we've talked to certain individuals with the ESD, we're told that it is a priority, but we're not getting any evidence that it actually is. And that's becoming increasingly concerning for us. And I think you'll understand more why here momentarily. Throughout the study, to kind of summarize some other key points within the study, when you look at our demographic data, like I mentioned to you, median income, we have some of the lowest median income in the county. We cover the lowest median income areas in the county in our primary district. And then obviously we work very closely with Rendon and partner with Rendon on a regular basis, which also has a lower income, median income level. The study identified a couple of key areas with moderate risk. Although our primary response area in the county was low risk, all of Rendon's response area was identified as a moderate risk. Well, we are almost always first due for assist if Rendon needs help. I mean, it's not uncommon for our fire units to go to Rendon. We do that on a regular basis. So our coverage area certainly overlaps with theirs, and we know that there is a moderate risk in our region. Looking at the heat mapping that was developed in here on page 18, the heat map in our area reflects a higher than average call volume. This is a very busy region for both fire and EMS calls. The wording in the study tends to highlight a couple of very small areas that have a high number of calls, but they don't look, in my opinion, they're not looking at the overall conglomerate areas. We have a very large area with high call volume. They have a couple of small areas with an extremely high call volume. Looking at the incident density map on page 20, you're not going to find an area with a more incident density than Southern Tarrant County right here in the Everman-Rendon area. So we have the highest call volumes. Rendon, of all fire departments that work with the ESD, has the highest number of calls in the county. One thing that the study shows and goes on to talk about is these 3 new fire stations that they're proposing. And the 3 new stations that they're proposing are in Eagle Mountain, Whiskey Flats, and then what's the other area? Lakeside. Eagle Mountain is up on the north side of the county. Whiskey Flats is down on the south side of the county, down by south of Benbrook, essentially near the county line. And then Lakeside is a fairly new community with the ESD that is looking to step up and receive ESD services. It's hard to look on. Give me just a second.
Just right outside of 199 Jacksboro Highway, Lake Worth, northwest of there.
So the proposed fire stations that they're looking to build, we believe, are solely due to an effort to lower insurance premiums for certain populations within the county. Because the call data doesn't seem to truly support the need for $7 or $8 or $9 million fire stations that they're looking to invest in. And that has seemingly become the priority of the ESD, is to build these fire stations. In addition to that, the study reflects a proposal for an alternative EMS delivery model. This alternative EMS delivery model utilizes a 12-minute travel time at 90%. What does that mean? That means 90% of the time in that region, you'll get an ambulance to you within 12 minutes. I don't know where they came up with the 12-minute benchmark, because NFPA standard and the standard that we have to use in the urban area is 8 minutes. There's not a standard for rural or suburban areas, but the average suburban nationally, the average suburban model is 10 minutes. Average rural area nationally is 15 to 30 minutes. We don't know where they're getting the 12-minute benchmark from. That seems to be custom to this study only. I don't know.
There's one other study that was similar.
Yeah,
locally.
I don't know where that came from, other than maybe the MedStar study that was utilized. But the NFPA standard is 8 minutes. That's what we try to achieve. So we're really not sure why we're suddenly shooting for a higher response time suddenly. I don't know why the study did that. The alternative EMS delivery model removes Everman, Kennedale, and Benbrook from being primary service providers to the county. Today, the primary service providers to the county in the southern portion of the county are Everman, Kennedale, Rendon, Crowley, and Benbrook. We have 6 stations, 7 ambulances total available in the southern portion down here. For some reason, this model takes that 7 down to 3. They would place 2 fully funded ambulances in Rendon and 1 ambulance in Crowley. I don't know any other way to say it other than I am just baffled in the fact that Tarrant County is the fastest growing county, one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. We are seeing tremendous amounts of growth in the unincorporated areas of the county, and we are looking at a proposal to essentially reduce our primary ambulances available in the area. So I don't follow the math here, to be quite honest with you. This is just a consideration. We're not sure that the ESD board is going to move forward with that. I don't know where the ESD board is going to take this. To be quite honest, this is the information that has been provided back to them. So following the completion of the study, Fitch Consultants presented the study to the Tarrant County ESD Board of Commissioners on June 10th, 2025. There has not been, to this point, any opportunity for stakeholder input into the proposed results, and several agencies have questioned and challenged some of the reference data and recommendations in here. Quite honestly, I think it's an injustice to the departments to publicly publish this data and this study without stakeholder input. Our fire chiefs, all of the fire chiefs within the county, should have an opportunity to review this study and weigh in on the data that is in there and the recommendations. At that same meeting on June 10th, the same meeting this was presented to the board as the results of the study, the board authorized the interim executive director to initiate work related to the construction of fire stations, including identification and evaluation of potential properties and development of a project plan and preliminary budget. The city staff opposed this action. I provided in the back of your books, there is a copy of a letter that I drafted and submitted to all of the Tarrant County ESD Board Commissioners as well as the interim executive director. Our opinion on this is that the ESD should not take any formal action on this plan until the study has been reviewed by all stakeholders. The fire chiefs have had an opportunity to provide stakeholder input. The public has had an opportunity to provide stakeholder input. And then our opinion is, based off this study, the board should then develop a strategic plan to implement any recommendations they want to implement from this study. None of that has taken place at all. Obviously our letter did not dissuade them from moving forward with approving to go ahead and build some fire stations. So they are moving forward with building fire stations, which, again, when I mentioned earlier, their actions tend to tell us that maybe this is not a priority for them to stop the subsidy of municipal dollars. Even though they say that it's a priority, their actions are not showing that whatsoever. So what do we believe the priorities of the ESD should be? First, our top priority would be to stop the subsidizing by municipalities. There's no reason why any municipality should be subsidizing county operations. There is significant, more than enough funding available within the Tarrant County ESD for them to stop the subsidy by all the municipalities and for them to still achieve the capital investments that they desire to achieve. We see no reason why all of this can't come to fruition. We're just very confused on why it's not going in the order that we need it to go. We would also like them to see, to increase funding so that departments can adequately and appropriately staff and compensate firefighters. That has been a struggle here in Everman. That has been a struggle in Rendon. I don't want to speak for all the other agencies, but I don't know that any agency in Tarrant County that contracts with the ESD is going to tell you, oh no, we pay our guys more than enough. That's not a concern for us. This really should be a top priority. We could do it. We would have a better shot as a municipality paying our firefighters more if we weren't spending $220,000 a year covering the county for them. That would provide a lot back into our pockets to be able to compensate our firefighters at an acceptable level and bring up our salaries to where they need to be. But we have this kind of linchpin holding us back from being able to do that. After those two things are complete, then we think that the ESD should be looking at capital investments within the ESD that will improve the existing response times and capabilities in the high volume areas. For some reason, we're seeking capital investments in areas that don't have a high level of call volume. That should not take precedent over areas that do have a high level of call volume. To me, that's common sense. And then after that, look at capital investments that will address the ISO and insurance challenges for citizens. I understand that there is some areas within the county that are upset that they have high insurance premiums. We have had a conversation with our county commissioner regarding this specific thing, and his view on it is actually the same as ours, that you shouldn't move into the county expecting to receive municipal services and those equal rates. That's not what living in the county is about. So therefore, spending ESD county dollars on essentially trying to build a city or a neighborhood with city benefits is not helping the system at all. We have been pretty vocal about this with the ESD directly. We have tried to address this. I've shared with the mayor that my concern is that we will not know what our funding is going to look like. We don't know if the ESD is going to cut us out of the loop altogether come this next budget. If you were to ask me today how much money the ESD is going to pay us this next year, I can straight up tell you I have no clue. And here we are, 2 weeks away from a budget workshop to talk about expenditures, and I can't tell you how much money we're going to get from the county to cover the county. So it's very frustrating. We are not the only municipality that is in this boat. I think we've been probably the most vocal, at least to this point. I don't know if that's going to change. I will tell you that I believe the ESD is working on or has just appointed a new executive director, a permanent executive director, so I'm curious to see if that doesn't provide some sort of change in operations and kind of guide this back. But we're going to have some pretty tough conversations coming up as we talk about budget, knowing that the city of Everman does contribute about $220,000 a year to cover county fire and EMS response.
If that's going to go up, if the county didn't pay us any more,
it doesn't have to. No, I mean it's a contract. So there's two parties to a contract. I don't want to say that we should get out of the contract. That's not the goal here. The goal here is not. We absolutely want a great partnership with the county. We have had a great partnership with the county for many, many, many years. I don't know why this sudden transformation and why stopping the subsidy and increasing firefighter salaries has taken a back burner to insurance rates for small neighborhoods, but it has. It absolutely, and that's exactly what it has done. But that has taken a back seat, and it's put us as a municipality in a very bad position as we are working on budget planning for the next year on trying to make tough decisions. I don't know where to take that. We want a good relationship with the county. We have phenomenal relationships with all of our mutual aid partners that we run with, including the county fire departments, particularly Rendon, who we probably most commonly run with. We have great relationships across the board, so we want that to maintain. But we have frankly, just as I've told the ESD, it is not the city of, and it cannot be the city of Everman's responsibility to pay for fire and EMS services for residents that are not ours. So, any questions?
So would we lose our tanker if we were, would we lose our tanker if we were booted out?
Yeah, I mean, so it's not our tanker. That is the
Tarrant
County ESD tanker. So we don't own that asset at all. I would imagine, sure. I mean, if we did not contract with the ESD, yeah, I'm absolutely sure that asset would be reassigned. But again, my purpose of informing you is I hope that's absolutely not the path that we go down. I mean, we want to continue a positive relationship with the county. We are trying to highlight for the current board the absolute paramount importance of stopping city dollars paying for it and increase the salaries for our firefighters. And I'm not talking about Everman, I'm talking about across the board. Rendon, Eagle Mountain, everybody needs to be paid appropriately. That's a tough job to do. Our firefighters deserve an appropriate salary.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how much some of the city manager, I don't know how much awareness there has been to this point. I think in my conversation with some of my colleagues at other municipalities, I think they've just kind of taken a back seat thinking this will clear itself up. But I'm of the belief at this point in time, this is not going to clear itself up. It's a problem. I'm being a little bit more vocal with some of my counterparts in other cities to bring it to light as well, to see if they can't speak up, because it's not just a problem for us. This is the same problem across the board. Every municipality. Yeah. As a matter of fact, other municipalities are likely subsidizing more than us. When you look at cities like Crowley, if their salaries are higher than ours and they staff more firefighters than we do, then they are paying more money into responding to the county than we are. That's just simple math and economics. I mean, that's just how it works.
Currently, the conversations that we've been having within the chief groups is everybody has the same thoughts and sentiments that we do, but we got in this to provide and to take care of people. That's where our heart is, and so we're in that double-edged sword of, you know, we have to be fiscally responsible. We've got to be stewards of our general fund. So that's where we fall back to our city manager and the finance director and y'all to provide us the guidance. But at the end of the day, we do what we do. We want to run the calls. We want to go provide the service for everybody. We just have to make the dollars and cents work. And I think that the city manager and I have, without a doubt, I will echo what he said, we have been very vocal. We have been by far the most vocal out of the group, not because we are the only ones with the concern, but because we're just typically the most vocal type individuals. And so the conversations, somebody's got to do it. So the backroom conversations that we've had individually between myself, the other chiefs, and he's had with the other city managers is more to maybe invigorate them to be as vocal as we are, because there's nobody who disagrees with what was presented tonight. The issue is who wants to truly speak up, because nobody wants to put their name on that line. And I think that we're willing to speak up in order to help solve a problem that will help everybody, not just one or two people.
Yeah, I'm hoping other cities will step up. Stronger in numbers.
Anything else on that? Okay, next item, item C, discussion of potential changes to certain city policies following legislative changes made during the 89th legislative session.
Okay. All right, so if you're not aware, the bulk of your packet is actually the legislative update that TML has put out. This legislative session was a record-setting session with more than 8,600 bills being filed at the start. Of those, only about 12 to 1,300 bills and joint resolutions actually made it through both chambers. The passage rate this year was 13.8%, which is lower than normal. They normally about 20% of the bills that are filed ultimately get through the entire session. This time it was only about 13.8%. Fortunately, cities, for the most part, were not primarily in the crosshairs of the legislatures this year, although there was a little bit that came back. But the major focuses this year were education, school choice, property tax and budget, infrastructure and water, public safety and justice, and then tech regulation and governance. Of course, always with some exceptions here and there thrown in there. But I'm not going to cover all 12 or 1,300 bills tonight by any means. Yeah, you have a packet that you can absolutely read through, and I do want to encourage you to read through I'm just going to highlight a couple of the big ones that we want to talk about and get your guidance on, as we need to amend our policies to reflect some of these changes. The packet is full of all sorts of updates for you. The first one is Senate Bill 1851. This bill takes effect on September 1st, and it requires municipalities to complete annual audits or financial statements within 180 days of the completion of the fiscal year. That's roughly March 29th. So by the end of March, well, we are in June and we still haven't got ours. So as you can see, there is some slight concern associated with this one. We are, on the staff side, we've already engaged our auditors with conversation about this requirement, and we've asked Victoria, or soliciting Victoria's help on maybe revisiting a contract negotiation with them to write this into the contract so that we have some level of protection there. I will tell you that our audit, getting the audit back to you is really not at all our timeline. Staff, we make ourselves available to the auditors. They determine the timeline when they're going to be requesting documents. We comply with that timeline 100%. So it's really going to be on the auditing firm to step it up and get that back to you. There is some gray area. I won't go into all of that with the law, but there may be some opportunities to still comply with the law if we don't get a full audit complete by then, financial statements and things. So there's ways to still achieve this, but it's important to be aware that the 180-day mark has to be filed with the city secretary. I'm curious to see. I'm surprised they didn't make a repository with the state for us to submit it. So I would imagine probably next legislative session, some agency, probably the comptroller, would be charged with creating a repository for the city to submit so that they can monitor compliance with that, because the law only says that we have to file it with the city secretary, I believe, currently. Correct, Victoria? No, you got to hold it down for a second. There it goes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And also the penalty is the amazing part of the bill.
Yeah, so here's what happens if we don't. First off, they can impose financial penalties against the city. But the more concerning part is that if we do not comply with this, the city will be prohibited from adopting any tax rate above the no new revenue rate. So we would be locked into adopting, the no new revenue rate for the following year. So, yes. All right, Senate Bill 1173. This one takes effect September 1st, 2025. It increases the competitive bidding threshold from $50,000 to $100,000. There's also some other things that it did that are probably pretty minuscule for you, but we'll update our financial policies to reflect that, and just wanted you to be aware that effective September 1, we won't have to put projects out for bid if they're less than $100,000. All right, House Bill 198. This one takes effect June 1st of next year. It gives us a little bit of a grace period because this one's going to come with a fiduciary concern. But cities must now offer an occupational cancer screening to each firefighter at no cost in the 5th year of the firefighter's employment and once every year following that initial screening. This is a great bill. I think it's something that absolutely needs to be done. But it's definitely going to come with a fiduciary consideration on our side that we're going to have to work into the budget and figure out. So I would expect us to include some dollars in that this fiscal year as we're working on this budget for that, and see if we can make sure that we get that covered and taken care of. House Bill 1522, this one takes effect September 1st. Open meeting notices must now be posted 3 business days prior to a meeting. No longer can we count Saturday and Sunday as a day for the posting. So our meetings are on Tuesday. We typically have had to post by Friday at 5 p.m. As long as we post Friday by 5 p.m., we're good. Unfortunately, that changed just now. So this means that our meeting notices must be published by the end of the day on Wednesday before a meeting, so almost a week before a meeting. And that also means that the agenda cutoff, really, if anybody is looking to have anything added onto the agenda, likely needs to be that Friday before, because that's only going to give us Monday and Tuesday to get that agenda prepared. So this one is one I wanted to open up for a little bit of discussion. Some cities have considered moving their meeting nights to try to make it easier. Doing the math, Victoria pointed out that maybe that won't actually make it any easier. But I'll tell you, it's tough, because if we meet tonight, there is no way I can tell you by Friday of this week exactly what all needs to be on the agenda for the next meeting. So I don't know what the council's thoughts are on maybe going down to one meeting a month, altering the policy a little bit so it gives us a little bit more time in between meetings, since we have to have it published almost a week ahead of time. I mean, there's a couple of options there, but wanted to garner your input.
There's no way you can do that. I don't have a mic. There's no way you
Oh,
can.
here.
Sorry, I didn't have a mic. You took it. You're absolutely right. After we do a Tuesday, there's no way within Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday afternoon.
We're not here for
Yeah, so see, what do y'all think? What are our other options? We have the once a month on the,
If you wanted to complete it all within 1 week, the only way to achieve that would be to move meetings to Fridays in the evening. And I don't think anybody's going to support that.
that's a negative.
No.
Okay, so that
We
one's
probably
off
do
the-
once a month.
So, I mean, there's no way to put it all within 1 week, really. It's very tough to do that.
I think we're okay with once a month, technically. We used to meet just once a month. We had that second meeting, which was our workshop. And that's when we met to chew on things. We rarely took action on anything. We just met, got discussion, yeah, and we did. We chewed on stuff. And then we went to the 2 meetings a month, just a couple, 3 years ago. I can't remember how many. But is anybody opposed to moving it to 1 month, 1 meeting a month? I mean, they're hamstrung. They've got to have time to react.
Not opposed, but just be aware the meetings will be longer.
Right.
Most likely.
Yeah, that
Right.
is one thing
So-
to consider, is that the meetings likely
Yes.
will be longer.
So you're looking at 6 to 10?
Oh, I hope not that long.
Well,
6 to
that's
8.
just exaggerated.
6 to 8.
That's heavy
Yeah.
exaggeration. We're not going to have that.
You know.
So we moved to once a month. Would we have the opportunity to have like a discussion time and then move into a meeting?
So, are you talking about like a work session?
Yes.
We could. So really the only difference between a work session, and Victoria can correct me if I'm wrong, but really the only difference between a work session and a regular meeting is typically work sessions are not typically open for public comment. We don't do the formalities. It is hey, here's these items. We're going to brief you on these items. Ask any questions you want before we go into regular session. And the purpose of it is to really expedite the regular session so that when we get into our regular meeting, it's just move for approval, and we're moving and done. We could do it. There are cities that do it that way, where we could allocate a time, say 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. is our work session time, and then 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. is our regular meeting time. The downside to that is if we have a light agenda, we can't start the regular meeting until
Got
7
it.
o'clock. So we could start a work session at 6, take 15 minutes on a work session, and then we have to sit here and kind of twiddle our thumbs for 45 minutes until the regular meeting starts. Frankly, I think, my opinion is, a city our size, I don't really think there's a need for a work session, because there's nothing that prohibits us during the regular meeting to discuss and brief you on items, just like we're doing now.
Got it.
And we can, knowing that, hey, we're not meeting every other week now, we can try to do a better job from the staff side to send out, you're gonna have a couple more days now to read the agenda, so we can develop, proper staff reports and things in the packet so that you have an opportunity to kind of brief yourself
Got
through
it.
that staff report, and then when we get into the meeting, hopefully just answer any questions.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Well, I'm good with the 1 day.
Yeah.
Not Friday.
Not Friday.
No, not Friday.
Where's I going with this? Just lost my whole train of thought.
On the work session, I think us talking like this and people zooming in or watching it, it gives them more explanation than if we had the work session and talk about it and then follow everything through. It's kind of more open for our city. Are they? Okay.
Yeah, the work sessions are just.
I didn't know if you
There's just
put it
not a
online.
delineated part of a work session typically for public comment.
Yeah.
So this is, it's really
Right.
just a part, everything we discuss has to be an open.
Okay.
But it's just us. There's
Yes.
not an opportunity for the
Right.
public to engage.
And a work session is where you bring us stuff that we need to hear about before we take action. So I'm gonna request, if we go to once a month, that we get whatever we're gonna be expected to vote on
Right.
before that council. I don't want to have it at 6 o'clock and say, okay, take a quick look at this. I mean, it's the same thing, but different. I don't want to get it that night and have to look through 99 pages and figure out what you're telling me.
Unless it's impossible, but,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the struggle is there are gonna be times where things just
Right.
come up or changes or something occurs where, because if we're only meeting once a month, that I may not know about a month ahead of time. That,
Right.
hey, we've got to take action, we've got to do something. We may have an expense that comes up that requires us to put out a bid that, we just have to move forward on. So there may be the time. Now,
You'll have that 100,000.
I absolutely, I think with the agenda packets and things we put out, we need to, absolutely, staff should be thorough in explaining that in the packet. And then I'm always happy to explain and chew on it with you while we're here and take an hour to discuss something if we need to before your approval. I never want to try to slide anything in front of you and get a quick approval without your full consideration and thought.
Understood. But what I'm saying is we want that early.
But-
If you're gonna meet once a month and you have to have that agenda out to us by Wednesday, then you've got 3 weeks, 2.5 good weeks, that if something pops up, you can tack that on. You can't tack that on. Where's Mindy? Somebody could send that to us, hey, this is probably gonna show up on the next agenda.
Okay.
That kind of a thing's what I'm
So
talking about.
you're not talking about discussing it at a meeting, waiting a month, and then having, you're just
Oh,
talking
no,
about
no,
being
no.
alerted, like via email, staff
Before,
rebriefing?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay,
Oh, good
that
heavens,
we can
yes.
absolutely, we can absolutely achieve.
Yes.
Right.
I
'Cause
was
I
just
was
worried
just
that
gonna
you were gonna
say-
wanna discuss it at a meeting and then wait a month for
Oh,
approval.
good Lord,
and
no.
sometimes it just,
doesn't
No,
work.
that never
And
works.
I was just
Still
gonna say
have
that would cause a larger number of special sessions that we would have to call.
That was
Yeah,
not my
that's what I'm
intent at all. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But
But
we
get
can
it
still
early.
do emergency meetings if
Oh,
needed.
absolutely.
And that's where I was gonna go with,
Yeah.
we may have to call a special meeting.
Right.
If something
If
has to
something
be
comes up
approved
that we
right
have to
then.
address, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
so, is there a somewhat of a consensus on whether you would prefer to keep the first or the second Tuesday of the month?
Oh, Victoria,
Or,
second,
I'm sorry, second or fourth?
second, second. Let's do it early in the month. Yeah. Is that, everybody okay with second Tuesday of the month? I mean,
That's
that's
fine.
when Victoria can be with us, okay. Yeah, starting,
Well, let's wait till we get through with budget. So I would say let's probably align this with pretty close to the end of August, maybe September.
Yeah.
Because that's about the time we'll be done with budget anyway, because we've already got a couple of these dates built into our budget calendar.
yeah.
So
Well,
let's
that's
not,
right.
let's not change the policy.
Plus, it doesn't
screw
start
that.
until after September 1st, 2025, right? These changes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can do September.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we could just start it at the fiscal year.
The second week of the month, the financials will be a month.
That's cool. That's cool. We're just accepting them anyway. Got that?
Just clarifying.
Got it.
To make sure that we don't mess up our budget calendar, do you want to start at October 1?
Yeah.
I'll be okay with that. Yeah, that just means we'll still have to comply with the law.
October.
October 2, I messed with
So,
the budget.
Yeah, for this,
No, I mean, it doesn't affect,
But
we only have the approval on the first,
September 9th.
Okay, yeah.
Well, and that complies with
Like I said, I think our
the House
concern
bill,
was
too.
not getting information that we
Yeah,
needed.
yeah,
and-
that was my concern, yeah, our concern.
But now I gave you too much.
Yes, let me
Yes,
read this.
But you gave it to us the night that we're looking at it.
I'm just gonna turn it this way a little bit.
Please.
All right, any other questions on this item?
No.
Okay. All right, House Bill 3161, this one takes effect September 1st, 2025. Just wanted to put it on your radar. Participating TMRS cities can now designate a rate of retirement up to 8%. The cap was previously 7%, and they've now increased that up to 8%. If you recall, last budget year, council approved an increase in the percentage. We were at 5, we went to 6. We are hopeful we can bring that to I'm hopeful, maybe we can bring that to a 7 this year. And then now that it's increased up to 8%, that's a phenomenal benefit to be able to offer our employees, a good retirement program. So the ideal goal would be to maybe the following year increase that up to 8. So, but that's now an opportunity afforded to us. House Bill 1950, this one is effective immediately. It says that for a city with a population of less than 100,000, it consolidates the municipal court building security and court technology funds into one. So you'll see that as we work on budget, those funds are actually going to be combined into one singular fund now. They're both restricted funds. You may have seen them on the budget reports before. They're restricted funds. Can still be used for any qualifying purpose of each. They've just said that they can be combined into one. And where this came from essentially was there were cities that, for example, us, where, we build a pretty substantial court technology fund, but there's really not a whole lot that we need to spend that money on when there are building security items that we could spend that funding on. So it just allows us to use the dollars a little bit better.
Got it.
Senate Bill 1376, this is a new one. This one's effective immediately, but it provides that a code enforcement officer in training may engage in code enforcement without supervision if the employer of the code enforcement officer does not also employ a registered code enforcement officer. That's good news for us with our code enforcement. That was a lot of code enforcement officers. That's good news for us considering our brand new code enforcement officer is in training and we don't have one.
Right.
We were trying to figure out ways to work around this. Fortunately, the new law scrubbed that clean
Right.
for us. So he's able to move forward with his job without any concern. So those are kind of the major, there's many, 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 many more that are going to affect some policies, but there's really not anything up for discussion. We're just going to have to kind of make those policy changes and we'll bring those before you. There's some things related to zoning, dwelling units, all kinds of great stuff in the legislative
Your
session.
notes, can you send us those?
Yes.
Little-
Yes, I can, but I'll tell you, I know it's boring reading material, but if you do get the opportunity to read through, it does break it down. There's a lot of really good information in there. I know. Legislative update is always exciting stuff.
Was that sarcasm?
As soon as I get home, I'm gonna read this.
Need something to read before you go to bed?
Yeah.
Oh,
Always.
I'm sorry, I was going to point out too, I just wanted to point, so there may be some more that come. TML wasn't real sure where the governor was going to sit following the conclusion of the legislative session on whether or not they were going to call a special session. There was an opinion there for a while that he probably wasn't going to call one, but then I don't know if you've watched the news in the last couple of days, they had a bomb kind of drop down in Austin where now the lieutenant governor and the governor are facing off over an issue that has absolutely put the governor in a position to call a special session. The governor's going to set his priorities for the special session, but that doesn't really prohibit anybody from sliding any other bills that they want to try to get through in this session. So there will be at least one special session. Last session, I think there were 3 or 4 special sessions that he called to really harp down on the property tax goals he had. So hopefully it's just one, and we may get some more changes that come up in the coming months after this next special session, and hopefully it'll be done by then. But we'll keep you posted.
Okay, next item is Everman Community Development Corporation Strategic Planning Survey.
I just wanted to remind all of council that you should have got an email inviting you to participate in a strategic planning survey. The purpose of this survey is the CDC is currently working on developing a strategic plan, and they want your input, and we're working on soliciting business owner input as well. And then we'll have some opportunity later on as a part of the study for public feedback and input into the plan. What we're trying to do with the CDC is to identify specific goals for the CDC to try to achieve over the next 5 to 10 years. So we want your input as council, and I know that 3 of you serve on the CDC, so you know what I'm talking about, but we want all of council's input on where you would like to see CDC put a focus, whether that's within infrastructure, certain redevelopment zones, those kinds of things. Essentially, the survey is asking you, what do you think the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are that we face, so that we can try to work with the CDC to develop a good plan. So you should have that in your email. About 3 weeks ago. Yeah, and if you don't, I can always resend it. We did get a couple. If not, I can always resend it to you. Tell me, and I'll shoot it over to you. Yes, ma'am. But that's all I've got there.
All right, now we're down to consideration possible action. Item A, discussion and consideration of appointments to the tax increment financing reinvestment zone number 1.
Okay, so I have a feeling y'all may choose to table this. And that's perfectly fine if you choose to do so. In doing some research with our TIF board, we have found that we have not renewed some appointments to that board. And I did find the resolution. I'm looking for it real quick. Okay, so back in 2013, when the tax increment refinancing zone was established, the council by resolution appointed 3 members to that board who were supposed to be reappointed every year, or their terms were for a year. Let me rephrase that. No, I'm sorry, terms were 2 years, and we have no record indicating any change on those appointments. Those appointments were Susan Mackey, Judy Sellers, and Michelle Myers. Susan Mackey was appointed by resolution as the chairman of the TIF board. We are now getting into a position with that TIF fund that we need to get the board together to start identifying desired goals and purposes of that fund. So it's paramount that we get the board cleaned up. The hospital district they're in the same boat. They can't recall who they appointed, and the county can't recall who they appointed. So they're working on cleaning up their appointments as well. But the city has 3 spots on that board. The hospital district has 1, and the county has 1. So there's 5 seats on this board altogether. The council elects the chairman of the board. So I just wanted to kind of put the ball back into your court. I do want to highlight the paramount importance of this fund. So I do think whoever you choose to appoint to this board, and it can be or it cannot be council, it's up to you, but whoever you choose to appoint to this board needs to be incredibly thoughtful, and in my opinion, really think about the investments that these are going to be, the investments that are going to be made and how they may affect 10 or 15 years down the road. That's what the purpose of a TIF fund is to reinvest improvements back into a zone, to help kind of redevelop a zone or encourage development in the zone. When this TIF zone was created, it encompassed what is now Hannah Ranch. So almost all of our TIF zone now is fully developed. There are a couple of smaller areas that we could look at. So now this board will need to decide where would be best to invest these funds back into. And I have a feeling that the undeveloped areas that are in this zone are going to likely attract in the near future some potential high-level commercial interest that we need to be thoughtful of on how we want to use these dollars. So, just whoever you appoint to the board, I just want business-minded, kind of a visionary, those kinds of things would definitely be good on our board.
So, what are we doing?
Well, the rules say I have to put it on the agenda every time we identify a vacancy, so it's on the agenda. So if you want to fill them tonight, you can, or you can choose to table this, and this may be the Senior Citizen Advisory Board 2.0, and it'll be on the next 3 or 4 agendas until you get it filled. But that's what the rules say that I have to do, is I have to put it on the agenda for you to consider to fill the vacancy.
How much is the TIF fund? I didn't know.
Currently, it's sitting right around just under like $900,000, I think, is what's in it. But I would expect that this next fiscal year to grow substantially following the new appraisals and new construction that has happened within Hannah Ranch. Because once you get new construction that happens within a TIF zone, that's when the funding really starts to kick up in those TIFs.
There wasn't any money in it, of course, when we first set it up in 2013.
I think it'd be good for maybe one of them positions to be one of our business owners, lives in the city.
That's probably a good idea. Yes.
The only thing I would caution you on is I would recommend to make sure it is not a business owner who could potentially benefit from TIF dollars. So it probably needs to be a business owner that is not located within the TIF. Just something to think about, because
It's a conflict.
You don't
Right.
create conflict. So absolutely, I think business-minded, business owner may serve well on that board. Probably just want to make sure it's not somebody located within the TIF.
And to answer your question, Carolyn, the payments haven't been made this year yet, but we're looking to go over $1 billion in the next couple of months in the TIF fund.
So,
When you make a board and you decide, you said the unincorporated areas. I personally don't know where those are.
I'm sorry. Say that one more
Right?
time.
You were talking about to plan it in the, invest in the, like the unincorporated areas,
Well-
which we don't have much in
Well,
the
no.
city,
So
right?
not investing
Is that
on
what
it.
you're saying?
So
I'm trying
let
to
me go
understand.
back and let me tell you what a TIF is.
Okay, that's
So
where
we've
probably
established,
starts.
we've established a zone within the area of Everman that incorporates essentially Hannah Ranch, goes down Ray Street.
So
It includes.
you chose the area?
No. City Council
Oh.
at the time, back in 2013, chose and designated this as it's a tax increment refinancing zone.
Okay.
It's a way to encourage development in undeveloped areas
Okay.
where a percentage of the property tax is essentially capped and restricted and goes into this restricted fund meant to be used in ways to reinvest back into that
To
zone.
develop.
Whether that's through infrastructure improvements. Let's say, for example, we have an undeveloped area over there. Let's say Walmart's not coming, just FYI. But Walmart came in and said that they wanted to develop here, but there were some infrastructure requirements that were in the way. We could use TIF dollars to complete those infrastructure requirements to try to attract a Walmart to come in. Those kind of, so it's meant to essentially attract and light a fire under some potential development.
Okay, so I guess.
In the zone.
In the zone, so yeah, I guess my question is, where's the zone, and I would like to see the zone.
It is in your packet, it's in your packet, and
Okay.
it's a little
Oh.
hard to read because it's black and white, and I can send you a clear vision of it.
She just told me where it was. Thank you. Page 180, yeah.
Yeah, the lines aren't really
Lord.
clear.
Oh, okay, I see. You have like 2 squares. Right,
I know,
180.
it's not super clear.
So we're
But the
looking
dollars
at-
can be
we're looking at
spent.
these
There are a couple of
areas.
exceptions there on where dollars can be spent. Cities have the option to choose like infrastructure facilities maybe that are not located within the zone. We could use dollars on infrastructure
Could you
facilities.
email us a better map of
Yes,
this?
ma'am, I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will. there are some options, but the primary purpose is to be spent within that zone, to reinvest back into it.
Okay.
So do we want to table this and
Yes,
think
absolutely.
about?
Let's table it, think about it, and decide next month. So
Are you
it's
making,
one more year.
you making a motion to table?
I make a motion to table. I still
Second.
make a motion, okay, good.
We've
Second.
got a motion and a second,
Yes.
so it is tabled till next meeting.
Yes. Okay. Put a tag on that, yeah, really.
Next item, ordinance number 834, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Everman, Texas, Chapter 11, licenses, permits, and miscellaneous business regulations by repealing and replacing in its entirety Article 5, peddlers or solicitors, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing a savings clause, and providing an effective date. So I will entertain a motion.
I make the motion to approve ordinance number 834 as read.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? You got anything?
I think one thing that we did not discuss was if the council wants to allocate a fee for this, change the fee amount. So if there's any guidance on that. The application fee is $50 as it is within the ordinance, so I think that was one thing that you questioned at our last meeting, if I recall correctly, is you were asking about should there be a fee or not a fee. The application fee is $50 as it is in the ordinance. So if you want to change that, then there would need to be a motion to amend on this,
What do other cities do?
$50.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
kind of like across the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll keep it the same.
All right, just leave it there.
So to go door to door, you have to submit get a permit?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
When would this go into effect? Tomorrow?
Yes, actually,
Yeah,
yes.
cool.
Is the city
Question.
ready?
Yes, yes, yeah, we'll be ready.
Question. Would that also include, like, if a church was going to do Vacation Bible School and they went door to door to put their little door hangers on there to say, hey, come July 1st through 6th? Or what? Oh, okay.
I like this has the time on it for it and 3 feet away from the door and all that good stuff, so that was good to put that.
How long is their permit good for?
What?
How long is the permit good for?
I believe it's
year?
1 year.
1 year.
One
The
year.
year.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, would you poll the council?
Place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
place 3, place 4,
Aye.
place 5,
Aye.
place 6,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
motion carried.
Now, the next item,
Being pulled.
yeah, it's being pulled by the city manager, so that'll be done at a later date. We have enough for executive session, city manager's report.
I've done enough talking.
I don't have anything, so we're going to adjourn the meeting. The time is
I love that. Did you get that picture?
7:49.
Is the website up and running?
Thank you.
Yeah, so
We've asked constantly about that.